every scene they appear in. Others become unforgettable for a very different reason. They don't demand your attention. They quietly earn it. For more than 4 decades, Steve Buscemi has belonged to that rare second group. Whether he was playing a nervous criminal, a lonely outsider, a sarcastic waiter, or a powerful political boss, he had an unusual ability to make even the smallest moments feel genuine. Audiences recognized his face almost instantly, yet many struggled to explain exactly why his performances stayed with them long after the credits rolled. Behind that remarkable career, however, was another story, one that had nothing to do with Hollywood fame. It was a story about loyalty, quiet courage, and a love that shaped every chapter of his life. Long before awards and acclaimed television series, Steve Buscemi was simply a kid growing up in Brooklyn, New York. Born on December 13, 1957, he was raised in a hard-working family that valued honesty, discipline, and earning everything through effort. His father worked for New York City's sanitation department after serving in the military, while his mother worked long hours to help support their household. Money was never plentiful, but the Buscemi family believed that character mattered far more than wealth. Those lessons stayed with Steve throughout his life and would eventually influence the way he approached both success and hardship. When the family later moved to Long Island, Steve found himself navigating a completely different environment. Like many teenagers, he spent years trying to figure out where he fit in. He wasn't the stereotypical popular student or star athlete everyone expected to succeed. Instead, he discovered that humor could break barriers. Making classmates laugh became a way of building confidence, while school theater introduced him to something even more meaningful. Acting allowed him to become someone else for a little while, but it also helped him understand himself. Even then, though, pursuing a career in entertainment felt unrealistic. For someone from his background, a stable job seemed far more sensible than chasing uncertain dreams. After graduating from high school, Steve followed the practical advice his father had always given him. He took the examination to join the New York City Fire Department, believing that dependable work was the responsible path. Before that career officially began, he worked several ordinary jobs, including positions at a gas station, driving an ice cream truck, and helping out wherever he could. None of those jobs seemed connected to acting. Yet every experience introduced him to different kinds of people, whose personalities would later inspire many of the characters he portrayed on screen. Despite working toward a secure future, Steve couldn't ignore the creative curiosity that had followed him since school. Encouraged by people who recognized his potential, he enrolled in professional acting classes. During the day, he trained to become a firefighter, and in his free time, he studied performance techniques, learning everything he could about character, emotion, and storytelling. It was a demanding balancing act, but he refused to abandon either dream before he knew which one truly belonged to him. By 1980, Steve had become a firefighter, assigned to one of Manhattan's busiest neighborhoods. The work was physically exhausting and emotionally demanding. Every shift carried uncertainty, requiring teamwork, discipline, and complete trust in the people beside you. Fellow firefighters remembered him as quiet and dependable, rather than attention-seeking. Yet when his shifts ended, he stepped into an entirely different world. Instead of firehouses and emergency calls, he found himself performing comedy in small downtown clubs, where audiences appreciated originality more than polished appearances. Those comedy venues became a training ground unlike any acting school. Steve learned how to handle silence, unexpected reactions, and the pressure of holding an audience's attention. Sometimes the jokes landed perfectly. Other nights they didn't. Instead of becoming discouraged, he studied every performance and gradually developed the understated style that would later become his trademark. He wasn't trying to imitate anyone else. He simply leaned into the qualities that made him different. Around this time, another young performer named Mark Boone Jr. teamed up with Steve for a sketch comedy act. The pair promoted their shows with homemade posters displayed around New York City's East Village. They had no way of knowing that one of those simple posters would quietly change Steve's life forever. Living only a short distance away was an artist named Jo Andres. Unlike Steve, she was already earning respect in New York's experimental arts community. As a filmmaker, choreographer, and visual artist, She had built a reputation for creating deeply personal work that refused to follow conventional rules. One day, she noticed the poster advertising Steve's comedy performance. She didn't know him personally, but something about the photograph caught her attention. It wasn't celebrity or success. He had neither at the time. It was simply curiosity. Meanwhile, Steve had begun noticing Jo in the neighborhood as well. He admired her from afar before ever introducing himself. Their paths crossed often enough that eventually a conversation became inevitable. What started as casual neighborhood encounters gradually turned into something much deeper. They discovered they shared a fascination with creativity, storytelling, and seeing the world differently from those around them. One of Steve's favorite memories from those early days remained surprisingly simple. After Jo visited his apartment for the first time, she noticed the same comedy poster hanging on his wall and smiled in recognition. It was an ordinary moment, yet he remembered it for years because it marked the beginning of everything that followed. Before Hollywood recognized his talent, before awards, before magazine covers or famous directors, someone believed there was something special about him simply because she saw the person behind the image. Their relationship quickly became far more than a romance. Jo encouraged Steve to trust his instincts as an artist, instead of constantly questioning whether he belonged in the entertainment industry. She challenged him to think beyond traditional ideas of success and reminded him that meaningful work often came from honesty rather than popularity. Steve, in turn, admired her fearless creativity. She approached every project with confidence, caring more about expressing genuine emotion than impressing critics. Together, they formed a partnership built on mutual respect rather than competition. As Steve's acting opportunities slowly increased, an impossible decision stood before him. Continuing as a firefighter meant security, predictable income, and stability. Pursuing acting meant uncertainty, rejection, and the constant possibility of failure. Walking away from the fire department was one of the hardest choices he had ever made, especially knowing how much his father valued secure employment. But with Jo's encouragement and his growing belief that he owed himself a chance, Steve finally committed to acting full-time. The gamble didn't transform his life overnight. Early film roles were small, budgets were limited, and recognition arrived slowly. Yet directors began noticing something unusual about him. He never treated supporting characters as unimportant. Even if he appeared for only a few minutes, he built each role with the same care as a leading actor. That quiet dedication would soon catch the attention of some of the most respected filmmakers in Hollywood, setting the stage for a career few could have predicted. As the 1980s came to a close, Steve Buscemi was no longer simply chasing an impossible dream. He was building a reputation one performance at a time, supported every step of the way by the woman who had believed in him before almost anyone else. Neither of them could have imagined just how extraordinary the years ahead would become, or how many challenges they would eventually face together.